Here we go. The stream is live. I'm making your host back, and we are recording.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Raj. You're a host now.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Karen. Hi, Shirley. Hi, Sheila. Hi, John.
Good morning.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Pam. Hi, Vicky.
Cheryl, you're
Hi,
following me.
Yipka. Nancy, Felice,
Good morning.
Jody Lee, Deborah, Virginia, Nancy, Jane. Hey, everybody. Mary.
Good morning.
Good to see you all today.
Shirley, can you hear me?
Yes?
Yeah,
Oh, Shirley, are you following me?
I am.
No, I had to leave to eat breakfast, so I finished.
I ate breakfast out this morning, Felice.
Oh, well, you know what? Hold on. Okay, here I am. Oh, no, I'm not. No, that was my background this morning. And I said, I'm in the restaurant waiting on my breakfast. So I stayed in my first session only half the time. So literally I had to go get my breakfast from the kitchen because I didn't eat this morning.
That's okay.
So I just finished this time.
Felice, I have tears in my eyes after that class.
What happened?
Oh, laugh and giggle.
Oh,
Which class was that, Shirley?
We were picking on Paul.
oh goodness. Norm,
Good morning, America with
Norm.
Norm. We have
Yeah,
such
very
a good
good.
time with him.
Oh, that's great to hear. Hi, Joyce. Hi, Danya. Hi, Leslie, Jody Lee, Joe, Kathy, Virginia. I may have repeated some names. Nice to see everybody on Thursday morning.
Yeah, but it's Thursday the 13th.
Oh my. She hates the number 13. Even if it's not on a Friday. You have to tell me about it later, Shirley. So let me be quiet because I know he wants to start his class.
That's all right. That's all right. We got 1 or 2 more minutes. We'll see if more people join. We've got quite a sizable class this morning. This is the first time I've done this class.
Okay.
So it should be fun and exciting.
When I was younger, I had 3 car accidents. They were all on Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Whenever it was the 13th, I hated to drive.
Oh.
And I had to drive, but it was no choice. So
yeah. Oh. But thank God you're here.
Yep. There's iPad joined. Oh.
Well, it's good to see everybody this morning. Let's do this while we're waiting the last minute or two. Put in the chat if you've used Airbnb or not. Say I'm an Airbnb member or I've not. I don't have an Airbnb membership, just so I can get an idea of how many people have Airbnb memberships. And you can also put in today in the chat, put in your best Airbnb membership experiences if you'd like, if you have time. Type in there, best Airbnb experiences. It's always good to hear. We know there's some bad ones. We'll start with the good ones.
Oh, God.
Mary, did you have a question or comment?
Oh, I meant to mess that up.
Mary Massa, I noticed you had your hand up, that's all. I will check chat here.
No, I didn't have a question.
Okay, no problem at all. Okay, so we got a lot of people here who have not used Airbnb. Good, good. We do have Max this morning, who was our TA, and he's got a note in there already about where to get the video of this class. When it's over, email help@getsetup.io, and he will be around during this class for any questions you have about any technical issues. And then also he'll gather up any questions in the chat. And since we have a sizable group this morning, I am going to ask as we go along that you put your questions in chat. I will also give plenty of time as I do this, that, the other thing to say now, questions about what I've just done, so you can see that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Okay, you should see something that says how to use Airbnb. This will mostly be demonstration
Yes.
today, so we'll just go through a few things at the beginning. And again, a little housekeeping point is if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll come around to those later. And then I will, however, also ask for questions or comments as we go along. I'm your guide, Russ Eanes. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, walker, and a cyclist, and I formerly was a book publisher. And when I was a publisher, my favorite thing was to help authors shape their ideas into books. I'm an avid traveler, and I have used Airbnb a lot over the last decade. I actually have to go back and figure out when my first Airbnb lodging experience was, probably 2012, 2013. I'm not sure. It might have even been earlier. I love the energy I get and the wisdom I collect from working with you all, which is why I am now a full-time guide with Get Set Up. And at Get Set Up, we help you learn useful skills. And I keep hearing from people all the wonderful things they learn. And about the laughter you got this morning from Norm, that's great. I'll let Norm know that. In our classes and at Get Set Up, we learn from each other. So ideally, your cameras are on and we can see you. As I mentioned earlier, you can request a recording after class of this class. So you can email help@getsetup.io. And if anyone is joining by live streaming, which could be Facebook or Get Set Up TV, and we are live streaming this morning, the best way to participate is to register for a class. That way you can be here live and ask questions. Lastly, Get Set Up's not paid to promote any specific products, and we really are talking about a specific product this morning. Airbnb, we're not paid by them to promote it. We're strictly an educational organization. What I'm going to go over today is 4 points. First of all, I'm going to show you how Airbnb works. I'm going to talk about how to join and create a profile. I'm going to show you how to make a reservation. And then I'm going to show you how to use the reviews. Those are very important, probably more important in Airbnb than other places that you do reviews. So reviews are very popular online, everything from Amazon to TripAdvisor to restaurants. Everybody's being reviewed these days. And there's the upside and the downside to reviews, and we'll talk about those a little bit. But I'm going to go on and show you a little bit about Get Set Up with a demo. But first, just some things to mention. Number one, Airbnb membership is free, so anyone can join. And that means you can join either to make lodging reservations, which is what most people do, or you can join additionally, or instead of, I suppose, to offer your place for rent. And some people do both. If you join Airbnb, you need to create a profile of yourself so potential hosts know something about you in advance. And I always recommend you keep your profile fairly up to date. Don't update it once every decade. Mine is pretty up to date, including a photo of myself. you're not always going to be accepted when you do a reservation. Every now and then someone could look at you and say they don't want to take a risk on you. I've never had that happen, and I don't know of anyone who's had that happen. But that is actually part of what makes what I call a kind of social media type of reservation system. And I call it social media because you can see things about each other and make reviews. It's actually part of its strength. If people are honest, and I think all the places I've seen are generally honest, and some have been exceptionally so. Honest reviews are at the heart of Airbnb. So it's important that we make honest, truthful reviews of each other. I'll share some of the risks of that and some of the difficulties of that as we go through it. And I should mention that mediation is available when there is a conflict. Having shared those last 3 points, let me say that I've never had a problem with Airbnb, having used it for almost a decade and made lots of reservations using it. Just say that again, I've never had a problem. That doesn't mean I haven't been in a place where there was some issue or other that I had to speak to the host about, but I've never had an issue with getting somewhere and discovering it was nothing like the pictures or the description. I've never gotten somewhere and found out that the host was totally different than they said they were. I've never gone somewhere and felt like the place wasn't anything like it had been described. So I've always had good experiences. There have been some issues with some of the places I've stayed, but that is part of the risk of Airbnb. Airbnb generally is less expensive, and there are some problems with Airbnb. I will mention one that I should say some unintended consequences of Airbnb. And one has been that in many cities around the world, good local affordable housing has been pushed out because a lot of landlords or property owners have turned what might have been a rental property for someone local into an Airbnb for tourists. So that is an issue. That's one reason why Rick Steves, that we all value Rick Steves' input and his advice. That's one reason why he generally is a bit down on Airbnb, I'd say, and that's valid. There are some cities where I wouldn't likely use Airbnb, like Barcelona is an example I've heard of, and I think I've heard of Amsterdam as another city where a lot of affordable housing has been pushed out. So there are risks. However, all the places I've gone to stay have not been in that situation, and I've had really good experiences with Airbnb. One of the advantages of Airbnb for me is that you get to stay with someone local. You don't always have contact with your hosts. I've stayed in places where the hosts themselves were out of town and traveling, and they were kind of renting out their apartment while they were gone. And so I never met them. Someone else came along to help me out. I've stayed in places where the people didn't speak English, but they always found someone who spoke English to come over and help me out. So that's to me, the main advantage is you're staying somewhere local and you're staying in a neighborhood. I've had some really good experiences staying actually in some homes where maybe there were 6 bedrooms in the house and 4 of them were Airbnb rooms. And we've had kind of an international travel experience with people from all over the world staying together and swapping advice and talking about where we live and where we're visiting. And we've had some really good experiences with that. So I've appreciated that. It's one of the things I like about Airbnb. So having said that, let me pop out of this and just go right into Airbnb. So I'm going to show you both the mobile phone version and the online. I do most of my searching and work on the online version because it's easier for me to see on my laptop. I can do it on my mobile phone, but I'm clumsy when it comes to typing and entering information on a mobile phone. And I just find it easier to do on my laptop. Even probably an iPad would be a little bit bigger and easier, but I like the ease and speed of working on a laptop or a desktop computer when I'm looking at Airbnb. So the number one thing that you do when you go to Airbnb is you do have to have a membership. You have to log in and create a profile. So if you don't have that, you can't use Airbnb because that's at the heart of the system. And it was started by some guys, I want to say 15 years ago, that had this crazy, I think that they, if I get the story right, they needed to rent out an apartment in some place like San Francisco. And they thought this crazy idea that they would put it out and they'd have strangers stay in their place. And at first they thought this was, some people said it's a crazy idea. No one's going to want to rent to strangers. No one's going to want to, stay at a stranger's house. But the idea of creating open, honest profiles turned out to be the opposite of what they discovered, that actually people liked that and gravitated toward it. So honesty and openness in who you are is at the heart of Airbnb. If you're not willing to put photos of yourself up or talk about yourself in Airbnb, it will be a handicap. You can't create it. It's going to be a very difficult profile to create if you don't put out too much information about yourself. It can create, I suppose it could create a bit of suspicion about who you are, which maybe is a good thing in my opinion. But I'll just show you, I have a profile, which is up in the upper right-hand corner. There's just a bubble and there's my profile, and I can go down to my account and personal information. Well, this is how I edit the personal information. I think I'm just going to go up here and click on my profile. Okay, so this is what, once I've created an account, and you would create an account on that same spot I showed you, you would put in some kind of email, contact information, account login, and account password, just like almost anything you do online these days is done that way through Airbnb. So that part of creating the account is similar to anything else you've seen. The difference now with other sites where you maybe make a membership, have a membership, is you're going to go in and then you're going to create a profile about yourself. Okay, because this is what someone who wants to rent to you sees. Okay, so I put in a photo. That's who I am. That's me with my wife, Jane. So they know I'm someone married. I've got a wife, and probably if I'm traveling and two are staying in the room, that's who that is my wife with me. So they already have an idea, something about me. Down here, there's some more information that shows I put this in, my identity, email address, phone number. You can see I have 18 reviews and they have verified my identity. I've never checked exactly what that means. We can click on that. It says, Russ successfully provided the required info to confirm their identity, how this works. So you click on that. I have a legal name and address. I put in the last 4 digits of my social security number. I put in a government ID check. So I'm not positive what I have in there, whether it's my passport or my driver's license. But while it might feel a bit like that's somewhat invasive, and if that is a problem with you, I understand that you might feel that's invasive, but I see that on the other side, that it makes a security for you so people know who you are. You're a real person with a real identity. You're not a bot. You're not an imposter. And then over here, I have more information about myself. So I tell where I'm from, a bit of my interests. And I always, by the way, I link, so you can go look up who I am on Facebook. I have a lot about myself on Facebook. I say what I enjoy: bicycling, trekking, photography, reading, etc., where I'm from. And then down below it are all the reviews that people have made of me where I've stayed. So the last time I used Airbnb was last September when I biked from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. And you can see Brian and Kathy at Harper's Ferry left me a very nice review. It was a pleasure hosting Russ. Excellent guest. Everything went smoothly and the communication was good. The place was left very clean and neat. Highly recommended. Well, you can't really do much better than that. That means I always try to be a good guest when I stay somewhere. I am also honest, though. When there's problems or issues, I bring it right away to their attention. In fact, one of the best things about when you run across problems with your place is bring something that to the host's attention immediately. Don't leave it till I stayed with them 3 days and there was no tea kettle in their apartment, kind of a thing. That's actually something real that happened to me. You don't want to put that in at the end. We actually had a host who rented a house and there were some real big things missing in the house. We let them know that right away. For example, there were no hooks anywhere in the house to hang a towel. We said, you ought to have hooks. We need something to hang up. We're at the beach. We need something to hang up our wet things coming in from the beach. So anyway, all the places I've stayed, you can see someone has left a review of me. And if a person is, you'll see when we go to make reservations, you generally don't get your reservation accepted right away. There's a lapse between the time you make your reservation. The host sees your reservation, looks at you, decides yay or nay, and you either get them or you don't. So anyway, it's just, this is very important for me, at least, that the people who I've stayed with have written good reviews, and I'm glad for that. I think you can see all 18. So apparently I've got 18 places that I've stayed where someone left a review for me. So that just shows, actually, I think this was one of my early stays, was with a guy in Germany. But I think I stayed with him more than once. This delightful guy named Roke in Frankfurt. That was my favorite Airbnb of all the years. I just rented a room in his apartment. And it was the first place I stayed in October 2014. And then, of course, every place you want to stay, I'll show you this in a minute, there's a profile of the host. Now, let me pause here and ask if there are questions, because there must be about getting a membership or login and creating a profile about yourself. Go ahead and either just put
you show a single person profile, but yet you mostly travel with your spouse. Shouldn't we sign up as a couple as our profile?
You can do that. I signed up as an individual because most of my early Airbnbs, I was staying by myself. The reason I've included my spouse in the photo is so that when they see that I'm going with someone, I'm with my spouse. You really could do it either way. And actually, I hadn't thought about that, because most of the people I know just have a profile of themselves. That way my spouse doesn't need to have a profile. You could do it either way. You could say in your about section, I mostly travel with my spouse, and put their name in there. Good question. More questions? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
There's another one in the chat.
Okay, let's check the chat. Does this app request financial info to simply create an account? That is a good question. You have to put a credit card in for payment. And I did it so long ago, I am going to assume that at the very beginning, you're going to have to put a payment form in, because there's no way you're going to ever be able to make any kind of reservation without a payment method. So I have a credit card in there, and I may even have more than one credit card. The reason being that if my credit card that I was using were compromised, I want to have a backup. I feel good about Airbnb's security. I realize that credit cards and financial information are a big risk that we all face everywhere. It's a live issue. I'm pretty sure you have to put that financial information in right off the bat. Generally a credit card.
Do they accept PayPal?
I think they do, but I'm not 100% sure. We could go check. I don't see PayPal there.
How about Venmo?
I don't see Venmo there, but thank you for those two questions. I'm going to research that. Personally, I would use a credit card. Here's the reason. Credit cards always have one layer of security between you and your bank account when you're doing anything. And I've had 3, 4, 5 credit cards hacked in the last 10 to 15 years. The company usually catches that. and tells me something's happened to my account. A couple of times I've spotted something and notified a company. If you use, I'm a fairly recent user of Venmo, like the last year or two, and Venmo is out of your account. I'm not Venmo draws out of your because my
You're
Venmo
fading
account I
in
have to
and
create.
out.
Okay, I hope everybody hear me okay. Venmo draws directly from your bank account, but you have to kind of set up a debit card with them. I'm not a big fan of Venmo, just saying that. I use PayPal a lot, but I generally do almost all my online transactions for travel like this through one.
Russ,
And
You're
yes,
Froze
frozen.
up.
you are cutting in and out. I was going to
Okay.
mention that I also have a Zelle account, and Zelle comes directly out because I had to put in a debit card because my credit union was local and not national. But with Venmo, there's usually a 2 to 3 day gap between somebody putting in funds and you accessing them.
yeah, those are all valid questions. Again, I want to be careful not to do too many particular recommendations, just to let you know what's available. And I will find out later if you can use either PayPal or Venmo. Very good questions. So we'll know that for the next class. When you set up an account, you can also find that out if you don't have one. If you don't have an account already, or if you haven't checked those pay. Sometimes different online companies, I'll just be honest, them always make working with the other one for people, consumers. Happens and always make things easy between each other. Neither do Facebook and Google or Apple.
That's how easy is it to cancel
Or
if something comes up and you can't go? On the
That's
trip that you were
very
wanting
good
to-
question. When we go to make a reservation, I'll show you that. That
Okay.
point to me. You want to check the cancellation policy. Let me just ask one more. Any more questions about setting up a profile? Again, I would put a photo in there, and I would be liberal enough with information about who you are that somebody feels like you're not thing. Again, it doesn't here, but I do have my Facebook profile there because my profile is seen by so many people. I'm well aware of that. By the way, I'm sorry if I'm frozen at any point. So if there's anything that you all missed or questions that you didn't get answered, please. Okay, let me move on. Let's Airbnb, and let's just.
Oh, God.
So we were in here the other.
Russ, you're breaking up. We
Yeah,
can't hear you.
this is not good.
Okay.
Sometimes we just can't hear you for a couple of seconds. And I mean more than.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. Are you hearing me now? Okay.
Well, right now, yeah.
Good. Okay. Don't be afraid to ask me to repeat. I'm sorry, there's a bad connection. That happens every now and then. I always start by deciding a location. So I'm going to show you a couple of different possibilities. These are places I've been searching recently. Click on where you're going. So I've actually been actively looking to go up to Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, over Memorial Day weekend. And so I always put it's going to ask you about your destination, and it's going to ask you about your days. Now, this is a saved search I have, but if I were doing an entirely new search, I would go in here and I would say, let's just put in where are you going? Let's put in Richmond, Virginia. Okay, then I put in the dates I'm looking for. Let's look for June 9th through 11th. I'm just making something up. And then I search, and I made a mistake in my search. Let me pop back here real quick. Go back to my search. Up, it's gonna ask me that all over again. Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia, put in the dates, 9th through 11th, and I need to put the number of guests. So I'm going to go with my wife. So there'll be 2 adults. Now we hit search. So you want to put in number of adults and children. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of places, and there's 2 ways that I can see it. Number 1 is on the left. I've just got various destinations listed here. Okay, and these are in no particular order. Okay. And then there's a map over here. So if I know where I want to be in the city, right up front, I might use the map, because if I want to be down in this area right here, I want to search that. I can zoom in on my map and I can move it around and I can grab the map and drag it over. So my son lives in the fan and I wouldn't mind going down and visiting him. He doesn't have room in his place for me. And here's the way this works. The very first place here, okay, this place, you can click on it. Let me just back up here a second. What I see, it's already a place. That little heart means I've saved it as a place which is a favorite of mine in Richmond. So I can click on either the $50 or the $78 a night. I click on that, and right away it pops up what it is: an entire apartment, Richmond, modern 1-bedroom guest suite in the, it probably says Fan District. So I click on it, gives me some more information about that place. Okay, so I've clicked on this. It says modern 1-bedroom guest suite in the heart of the city. That's kind of a unique name. So that the host has made up that name. And there's photos I can look at. So there's the bedroom, there's the kitchenette, and there's the bathroom, and there's the lounge space by the bed. So I basically, it's one room. That's what it looks like from the back. That's probably where I'm going to enter it. And those are all the pictures. So I'm going to close that. So I have an idea. Now, if I scroll down, here is the host. So I can click on hosted by Finesse. So I can find out more about Finesse. She's got 95 reviews. Her identity has been verified. So here's things that she's told about herself. Okay, and the place. Then down here are all sorts of amenities, and this is important to look for because there might be something here outside of your bounds, like she's got check-in between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. Well, if you're going to get there at 10 a.m. in the morning, know that you're going to have to wait 6 hours to get in. Sometimes hosts will let you in a little bit early, maybe an hour or 2 at most. Depends on whether someone has been staying there, whether they have to clean up, whether they're at work, or what they have going on. And then they give you the checkout. So this is just like a hotel. This says self-check-in with lockbox. That means they're going to send you a code ahead of time and tell you where the lockbox is. It has the key. Okay, it says it's not suitable for children and infants. No smoking, no parties or events. Pets are allowed. So if any of those things matter to you, you need to know that. And then there's more information down here. Only registered guests allowed. So that means you can't rent it for you or you and your spouse and have 4 or 5 other people stay with you. Those are the house rules. And they could find that out and they could get you for that on your review. Notice over here, this is very important to me. I always look at the cancellation policy, non-refundable. Cancel before check-in and get back only the cleaning fee if you paid one. Whoa, so that's pretty severe. Okay, not bad, but just severe for me personally. And if I were going to reserve it, I would click up here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back to this right here. Well, let me go back to the apartment, and up here at the very top. Now, this is an important box to look at when you want to rent it, because not everything you see in Airbnb is in this price. It says it's $70 a night. Okay. And I put in 2 nights, the 9th and the 10th. Okay. If that math doesn't quite seem to add up to you, it's because there's other details in that price. Okay. So look down here. They're charging you $70 for 2 nights. Then they're putting in a $55 cleaning fee. Personally, I find that pretty excessive. They've got a $28 service fee. Whoa, that's quite excessive too. And then there's an occupancy tax. That's relatively new. When Airbnb began, it was kind of like a free-for-all and people were opening up their homes and the system was great. And then it honestly did cut into the local hotel business. And a lot of cities, I think quite fairly, said, hey, if the hotels have to pay an occupancy tax and you've got an Airbnb, you've got to do that too. Actually, here in Harrisonburg, where I live, which is a city of about 70,000 people, a year ago, the city enacted a whole bunch of ordinances about Airbnbs, and you actually have to apply for a license to have an Airbnb. You can't just open one up. And they've done that because in the beginning, people had Airbnbs. It was when it was kind of an unregulated system, and there were issues. There were people, lots kind of overwhelming a neighborhood with cars and folks going in and out all times of night and day, and parties and things going on, and it bothered the neighbors who thought, hey, I'm just in a quiet residential neighborhood. What's going on in that house? So now everyone who has an Airbnb, Harrisonburg, has to register. So I would just say that if you look at that, that is more than doubling the price per night. So we'll look at this very carefully, because $70 a night might sound like a bargain, but by the time you've added all these other fees in, it's quite big. What are in all these fees? Well, I think a cleaning fee is reasonable. The service fee, however, what happens is Airbnb charges the host a fee to use their reservation system. And so what this host is doing is they're charging that back to the customer, to the guest. And fair or not, right or wrong, that isn't the issue. It's whatever that host thinks they can do on the market is fair game for that host. If they want to rent a place for too much and no one wants to stay there, that's their problem, not yours. So this is real important, just to look at this. And then you click on reserve, and then the host has a chance to look at your profile and decide whether or not they want to rent to you. You can contact the host ahead of time if you have a specific question about something before you reserve it. You would especially want to do that if the reservation was non-cancelable. Because if it says, and this one has, this is very important right up front here, I see this, is non-refundable, $235. If you click on this right here, it says, okay, this one says cancel before June 4th and get a full refund minus the service fee. So they have kind of a two-tier system. If you want to spend a little bit less and get it non-refundable, you can get it for $235. If you want it refundable, you have to spend $254. So again, there's two policies here to look at. Some places I've looked at are strictly non-cancelable or non-refundable. Some places I look at have very liberal cancellation policies. I like those places personally. Just by the way, notice some other amenities that they have here, and these are probably important to you. Look at, there's the kitchen, free parking on premises. There's a TV with standard cable. There's a dryer. They have a backyard. They have Wi-Fi, and they'll always provide you the Wi-Fi information when you get in. Pets are allowed. They have a washer, patio, or balcony, hair dryer. All important things to know. And there's 35 amenities. You can click on this. Hot water, okay. Shampoo, nice to know. And you can scroll down that list of even more details about the place. Questions about looking at a place to rent a host?
You find most of the places are pet allowed?
Shirley, I'm unable to answer that question because I've never traveled with my pet. I have one cat. I used to have two, and I never traveled with them anywhere that wasn't with a relative, unfortunately. So I can't answer that question.
I assume you look at the reviews given.
Yep. I look at the reviews. So we would go down here. They've got a 4.55 out of 5. And here's the reviews right here. Jill, she says, Vanessa's apartment was lovely, super clean, so on and so forth. Great stay. The apartment was clean. The location was great. It says, but it was in a basement apartment with little light, no central air circulation, limited water pressure in the shower, and every footstep, a normal level of conversation from upstairs could be heard. Thank you, Heather, for telling me that. I've stayed in those. I will tell you, my worst experience was staying on a 5th floor apartment that I didn't know was in the 5th floor in Frankfurt, Germany. And I got there and I said, oh, it's up on the 5th floor. And we had some heavy bags to carry up there. I thought, oh, I wish I'd known that. Well, it might have been in one of the reviews, but I didn't see it. So that's important to look at. I don't actually like basement apartments. So you see, she didn't say that up here. You can't quite tell that looking at it. She's done a good job of photographing so that you can't tell it's a basement apartment. So I liked Heather's review, and I appreciated that. She didn't say it's a terrible place, awful host. She didn't say anything nasty, but she gave a good, honest review. That's why I like the honest reviews. Okay. So read the reviews before you go. For me, I would have found that basement apartment thing would have stopped me right there.
Excuse me. I have posted 2 questions in the chat room, but anyway, I summarize. Faced with all those evaluations, etc., what does a company Airbnb do, especially in the case of negative assessments? Do they contact the hosts or, let's say, members and give us some word of caution or advice for him? Or they just kind of shrug the shoulder and it's up to you? We are just intermediary. What do they do?
There are issues where they have to work that out, and there is a mediation. I think what happens is the host gives a review of the guest first, so they give the guest the last chance to review, which is nice. You can also say things privately to the host or the guest if you'd like to, so that it's not in the open review. Let's say there was something about the place that you feel needed to be corrected and you told the host about it, and the host said, thank you, I'm going to fix that right away. Well, you might not want to put that in the review. You could say something like, the host was very responsive to taking care of any problems. It's kind of a vague way of saying I had an issue with something. When it does come to more serious problems, Airbnb will do a mediation on it. And that happens. I've never experienced that. The closest I came to that was with a host that was very difficult. And I left an okay review, and then they did something nasty afterward. And I thought to myself, wow, I wish I'd been a little more honest with my review. So that's why I say be honest and and be fair and be honest. I'm just looking at your questions up here in the chat.
Oh, that's okay. I just covered it. But then I would be more as a kind of a user of Airbnb facilities, and also very interested in kind of doing this at my country house, which is severely underutilized. I'm very worried about hosts offering illegal facilities to tourists. For instance, this particular $70 a night facilities in West Virginia. I wonder if they have any kind of a town authorization to cut out this tourist apartment in the basement. Very often they kind of carve out additional room, etc. And it looks like as if they have done it without any permit. Is there any way I could find out if this kind of the facility that host is offering is up and up?
There is no way of finding out other than looking at their Airbnb profile. So that is one of the risks. And I always say there are risks with Airbnb, and you need to know those right up front if you're going to use it. Again, I've never had any big problems, and I've found that it's often better to work with someone where the host lives in the place or above the place or something like that. So they're right nearby. And sometimes they'll say that in their profile, like, I live right upstairs, I live downstairs, I'll be around during the day to help you with any issues. I guess the thing I'd say about Airbnb is the price isn't the only thing to consider. There are many considerations, from location to amenities to, for example, another thing I look at, and I'm trying to see if it's in here. Let's look at she's got sleeping arrangements. I'm looking for parking. And in many cities, parking is a big issue. And especially when I've stayed somewhere like Europe or somewhere where I'm driving a car and I need to know to park. So I'm seeing right here, free parking on premises. So that's good to know. And there's also free street parking. Just a little caution, the free street parking may be true. That doesn't tell you how much is available. I happen to know this neighborhood because my son lives in it in Richmond. And I can tell you right up front, it's hard to find a parking space. Not impossible, just hard. Virginia, did you have a question?
Yes, it's just I'm wondering if the Airbnb ever also functions as a hostel.
Well, I should say sometimes hostels use Airbnbs to make reservations. Actually, one of the places I was going to search for, but I'm not going to do it today, is a bed and breakfast. A lot of bed and breakfasts use Airbnb as their reservation system. For whatever reason, that's the way they want to do it. I'm trying to think if I've seen a hostel in Airbnb. It's possible. Does Airbnb function as a hostel per se? That's a good question. I haven't seen it, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
What is a hostel?
A hostel is a place that a lot of people stay in where they generally offer you a bed and lots of common space, kitchen, community room, bathrooms. And what you generally have is a bed, often in a dormitory of anywhere from 2, 4, 6, 8 beds upwards. I've stayed in them. I've liked the ones I've stayed in. They're all over the place, and there are reservation systems for hostels, so that hostels have sort of an international network. I can recommend them, but just like anything else, you have to beware and make sure you know the risks is what you're getting into. Shirley, do you have a comment or question?
What about handicap? Are there many places that are handicap available?
That is a very good question. And so you can find that in the amenities. So one thing you might do when you're searching, let's go back here and let's just go back to Airbnb and let's say, where are you going? Let's put in again, let's put in again, Richmond, Virginia. And I'm going to put some dates in again. Now let's do a search. And I'm just curious if there's a way that you can put in type of place, entire room. Okay, this, by the way, you can search. Once you've got your big search done, you can refine it. You can have the entire place, private room, hotel. Okay, and there you go. Have a private room or shared room and a boutique, hotel, hostel, and more. Let's see if there's if under instant filters, there are more options here. By the way, there are people that are called super hosts. That means they do lots of hosting. So that's kind of a perk if someone is a super host. And I'm just looking to see it down here, Shirley, if there are, those are just languages.
Russ, you skipped it. It's accessibility towards the top. Right there, accessibility.
Thank you. Here you go, Shirley. No steps or stairs, wide entrance for guests, disabled parking lot, step-free path to entrance. So if you want to look for a place that was accessible like that, you could just check all of them like that.
Yeah. And that would bring up your search then.
That should modify your search.
Save it, and let's see if there's any place that qualifies.
What? Oh. No places to stay available, Shirley. For all 4 of those criteria. And remember, I put in 4 criteria.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's good to know.
If you can do with some of those criteria, that would be important to know. So if, let's say, well, I'm not sure what step-free path. Oh, I see step-free path to entrance. Yeah, no stairs or steps to enter. Really, if someone's in a wheelchair, they have to have all 4 of these. Good, very good question, Shirley. I'll remember to bring that one up next time. There's lots of, you can see there's lots of ways you can filter this. And you could decide that you want to filter it by price, where you look, you can go up to $1,000. I don't think so. Let's bring it down to 70. Let's bring it down to $100 a night. We'll say 99 a night. So now it's going to filter out a whole lot of places that are more expensive. Now you're just going to see the places that are less than. Remember, that's the price before they tacked on all these other fees. And my experience is, in a certain neighborhood or area, they tend to tack on similar fees, not exact, but similar fees to each other, because they're sort of competing with each other.
But I see like the first one's got $85 a night and then $194 total. Is that the total with all the fees?
For 2 nights, yes, it is.
Okay, so you can see it on that first page. That's good.
And just checking down here, see, look, this is 85 a night. This one is 68 a night. And I'm really curious why. Oh, this, I'm not selecting highest to lowest. But so this is what you're really comparing, is this 194 to the 244 to the 184. I've trained myself to start looking for that when I scroll over. So for 2 nights, it's going to be 160. Lovely room in 1889 Fan District Charmer.
What does that mean, right? Fan District Charmer.
The Fan District is this part of Virginia because the streets angle out from one another. They look like a fan. The old kind of fan that you wave in your face, that you opened up and you waved. And so that area is called the Fan. So that is the 1889 is the year it was built. In 1889 Fan District. And they want you to let you know that the room is a real charmer, or the apartment is. And I've been there. It probably is very charming.
It has a shared bath. Ugh.
Yep. And what I like is these things are up front right off the bat. 2 guests, 1 bedroom, shared bath. You will pay less to have a shared bath. If those things matter to you, private bath, you should note that. Here's this one, charming studio. So that one, and by the way, see, I could hook up here, entire place to self. There you go. If I save that, now I'm going to filter out any of the places that have that shared bath right off the bat. And what this is telling me is that on those dates, it's going to cost somewhere between $90 and $80, $90 up to stay somewhere for 2 nights. And notice also, as I scroll over the list, on the left, on the right, they mark the place on the map. So as I'm scrolling down the list, when I come to this place, it's highlighted there in black. Down there, it's highlighted in black. We're out of time today. I'm glad we've done this. I didn't get time to show you the mobile app. I found the mobile app helpful for communication. So there is a messaging system with hosts up here. So there's a whole section of messages, and that is really handy on your phone. You can see the messages, and you can see here, here, by the way, here's an example of where I messaged somebody before I made the reservations. I told them I was biking, and I asked them if they had a secure place to put my bicycle. And they said, yes, we have a garage where you can keep your bike. So I did that before I made the reservation. So that's one thing I wanted to know.
How does it compare with hotels or motels?
Well, I think the rooms tend to be competitive in price. Sometimes an Airbnb is available where a hotel or a bed and breakfast is not. Even though I use this a lot, I have tended in the last year or two to gravitate toward hotels and bed and breakfasts when they're available in town, simply because I want to support their business. And there might be an Airbnb for the same amount or less. I like Airbnbs when I've gone somewhere like a foreign country and I really need the help of a local host. You can get that in a bed and breakfast in a hotel, but especially a local host is really nice. I've also used Airbnb when there simply aren't bed and breakfasts or hotels, especially more rural areas. So again, when I biked from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. last year, I stayed in a mixture of hotels, Airbnbs, and bed and breakfasts. And that was strictly based on what was available. In some places, the hotel was available, cost less. Also, remember, it was during the pandemic, and so we had to be very cautious about where we were staying. And Airbnbs were risky. Everywhere was risky. There was no place without a risk. But I found myself, actually, I was 6 nights I was gone, 7 nights I was gone, and I found myself staying in a mixture of all those places. It kind of depended on where I wanted to be located and how accessible I wanted to be to the bike trail that I was on.
Have you ever booked with Vacation Rentals by Owner?
I have.
How
That's
does
good.
that compare?
Well, that's good for a week or more, or 2 weeks, and especially for vacation homes. I think I've almost strictly used them at beaches. I haven't done it overseas. I would say it's comparable to that. You're more likely to find in Airbnb rooms, though more and more people that have a house are listing it at Airbnb. Virginia, one last question.
Do they have I'm thinking of Calgary here. We have our Calgary Stampede the first week of July, and hotel rooms go from $100 a night up to $500 a night.
Yes.
Do they have ranges like that?
Yes, Airbnb varies. Yep, the host can vary their price depending on what they think they can get for it. One last question, Virginia.
Yes, only because I don't know how to think this through right now. How about air flight? Is that included or not?
Air flight? No. Nope. This is all strictly lodging. And Airbnb does lodging. They also do experiences. So you can see if you click on the Airbnb homepage, you can see that you can say places to stay, experiences. I'm not sure what online experiences are. I've never explored that, but experiences might be like rafting trips or tours of something interesting, a boat trip. This has been a great group. I know you have more questions, and I'm sorry we didn't get them all answered today. You will get some notes following up from the class in an email. I appreciate any feedback to the class. First time I've done it, so any way I can make it better next time I hold it, please let me know. It will also be held again and again, so you're welcome to come back to the class every time I hold it and ask your question that you didn't get in the first time. You can also look at the recording. Thank you all for being here. You were a great group. Might see some of you later in classes today. Otherwise, have a great day.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.